Right, good afternoon, John. Thank you very much for allowing me to come and interview you. For those that don't know, John, you're a local historian and you've written about 15 books on the subject of Sittingbourne and the surrounding area, which obviously makes you a prime candidate for being interviewed by Sittingbourne Me. You did tell me earlier that you were kind of inspired to get into all of this partly by Time Team, which came as a bit of a surprise to me because most people, I'm sure a lot of people watch Time Team and think, oh, I'd like to give that a go or something. But I find it interesting that that's been part of the reason why you've got into writing all these books.
Yes. Well, when I started, I suppose really, terrible confession, I knew next to nothing. And after a while I realised that I would need to formulate my own theories and hypotheses on how and why things have happened as they have in Sittingbourne. And I figured the only way to do this would be to study archaeology. Now, pretty well, much from day one, I've been an avid fan of the TV series Time Team. And I have noticed on that there is a lot more to it than simply digging trenches and finding all sorts of things. There's a lot of background research going on. So, with that in mind, I thought, well, I really ought to sort of take this up on a more I've lost the word.
Professional footing?
Yes, on a more professional sort of footing. Yeah.
So one of the other things that I've found really intriguing when you wrote the piece for the Sittingbourne Me website, you said that you were a DJ, and I think something around the disco type period. Is that so? Were we talking 70s DJ here?
70s right through to late 70s.
Yeah.
Late 70s right through to the mid 1990s.
Oh, okay. Well, that's quite neat because that covers my period.
It gets better.
Did you? I mean, where did you DJ?
Literally anywhere in the southeast. I had a friend based in Harlow in Essex.
Yeah.
He used to often give me bookings that.
Oh right, so it was going to parties and clubs. It wasn't just a resident DJ somewhere.
It was parties, wedding receptions, social clubs.
Okay.
Literally all over.
I think that's fascinating.
And of course, my regular New Year's Eve gig for the last few years, Little Village Hall in Batchild.
You used to do that? I didn't know that. I didn't. I went to quite a few of the New Year's Eve parties in Batchild, and you weren't the DJ when I went to those. But that's really funny because that's a very, very popular New Year's Eve party for anyone that hasn't been.
It was from 97 back to about 94, 95.
Yeah, I only moved into Batchild in sort of I don't know, around the very late 90s. So yeah. I'm a relative newcomer in that respect. One of the things that I've found kind of interesting, doing a little bit digging just for Batchild, because obviously I come from Batchild, was finding out that there was once a leper hospital, which might horrify a few people, but I don't think there's any problems now.
Yes,
but it was quite a revelation to me to find that. I just wondered, did you ever kind of find anything out that was a bit of a revelation for you?
Yes, it's one thing I'm working on at the moment. Again, this is where archaeology comes into play. On a lot of early maps and printed books of Sittingbourne, there is mention of there being a castle down Crown Key Lane called Bayford Castle.
Okay, I had no idea there was ever a castle in Sittingbourne.
There never was.
Oh, that's probably why.
Looking into it, and what the early map makers and historians thought was the remains of the moat, it's actually elaborate drainage ditches. Completely shattering this myth of there being.
Well, but that is part of what history is about. It's about finding out whether sort of urban myths and things are actually have some basis in fact.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that's become incredibly popular just recently has been people's memories of Sittingbourne, and I know it's quite a keen subject, and I know there's several people doing certain things about that. I just wondered, for me, I mean, I suppose my favourite memories of Sittingbourne when I was growing up was when I was a teenager, and we used to have the record shop. It was at Metro Records, wasn't it, in the Forum?
Yeah.
And I spent practically every Saturday morning in Metro Records. Probably didn't have the money to buy much, but I used to love leafing through all the records and seeing that. Do you have a particular sort of fond memory of Sittingbourne, or any part of Sittingbourne from the past?
Yes, there was a shop in West Street, I think it's now Harrison's estate agents, was Sittingbourne's, as far as I can make out, about their first record shop. It was called Baker's.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how many of our viewers here will remember Baker's.
No, I don't.
And it was a bit of a... this was going back to the mid-60s, the time of offshore pirate radio. And what sticks in my mind, it was a sort of a place where you could sign up for the Radio Caroline fan club. And there in the window was pictures of all these DJs and the ships.
Yeah.
And then in years to come, I was living in Gillingham, playing mobile disco DJs, and the lady who managed Baker's record shop in Sittingbourne came to Gillingham and started up a new one there.
Oh, okay.
That was Barnaby Recordings, Barnaby Records or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was great.
I just love the whole that sort of almost modern history, sort of nostalgia for places that were around even up to fairly recently. It's kind of been disappointing to see a lot of the shops go, but I suppose the high street has always been in a state of flux, and shops come and go, and they always have done over the years. If there were someone that was kind of wanting to get into writing history books, would you have any particular advice for them? Is there a good way to get started in this, or is it perhaps getting involved with the local groups, or some of the local history groups, or the Heritage Museum?
So the Heritage Museum
like
runs its own local history group.
Yeah.
Little teams, there's a team of about a dozen or so, are actively involved in compiling various books for the museum, and you're very much encouraged to do your own thing. You've got a central subject, you just start delving into it.
Because I think the trouble is when you try to do something on your own, you can feel quite isolated, and everything, every problem seems insurmountable. But if you're part of a bigger group, even if you're working alone, you have that opportunity to at least talk to other people and work out how best to do things. So I think that can be a nice bit of comfort for people.
I think it's basically find a topic, a subject you're interested in, and try and expand on it. See what the local library's got on that subject, see what there is on the internet, and look around. I mean, for example, up to about a year ago, several people said the Julius Spicer almshouses in Bell Road, who was Julius Spicer? And no one knew. I've spent the last year or more researching this subject, and we've got a colossal file, and we know exactly who the lady was, all about her, her family life. There is a lot of information, and it's all come about piece by piece. I always say local history is like doing a jigsaw puzzle. You collect, you put pieces together, bit by bit. Gradually, a picture starts to emerge, and then you can build upon it. But it's very satisfying, very rewarding to sort of work on these little projects and.
What I mean, one of the things that I know that's sort of you know that's happened to you and has happened to me too, that you find out that you know someone has sadly passed away and they had a whole bunch of stuff, and you know before you found out about it, unfortunately it's all been thrown away. So if someone does have something or come into possession of something, what would be the best thing to do with it? Would it be to give it to the library or the museum, or what should they consider?
Well, I would say the first step would be put a codicil or an entry in your will saying that you want a certain item to go somewhere.
Yeah, I was thinking more about if you're the person that's inherited this stuff, or you found this stuff but you don't actually want it yourself.
Yeah,
you know.
I would say the Heritage Museum
would be a good part. I think they'd be very grateful.
Yes,
for anything like that.
They've got a massive collection down there in East Street, and yeah, they're always open to receiving more.
Yeah,
can never get enough. But
well, thank you very much, John. That's been very interesting indeed.
Thank you.